Welcome everyone to Sysco Canada's virtual kitchen. Welcome Michael Audet back in the house. And today we're talking menu, psychology and menu design, menus, all the good stuff. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you for saving those groovy tunes. I love it.
Did you like
That
those great
music is
tunes?
right up my alley. Well done.
Did you like that?
I did. I loved it.
That's pretty cool, eh?
I want it. You have
Um,
to send me the recording so I can play it every once in a while when I feel like I need to groove.
you know what? I'm excited about today because this is one of my areas. I went to university for design and art school and stuff like that. So talking about different things around menus and design and the psychology of it. This is one of my favorite topics that a lot of people, I think, can learn a little bit from. So today's gonna be a great chat. You're a wealth of knowledge as I just learned more about it earlier about menus. So, but first, Michael, how long you been doing menus for?
Oh, well, Jay, part of my career here at Cisco, I spent nearly 3.5, almost 4 years, specifically creating menus for our customers. And when I started to prep for today's call, I went back and looked at some of the historical records. And I was even shocked that I have, I think, just over 200 menus that I've created for a number of customers throughout the years here in the British Columbia region, well, especially in Vancouver, mostly where I did that work for. But reflecting back on it, that was fun. It was always interesting to go through the process, start to finish, and I like to say I've done them all: cafes, pizza place, fine dining, a lot of pubs, takeout menus, kids menus, you name it. And I think there's certainly a lot of fun that you can have with the creation. But then there's a little bit of the science or the psychology of putting a menu together and having that number one sales tool really be the workhorse in your establishment.
It's interesting because I find that menus, a lot of people, when you do get to play a little bit with, like you said, the science of menus, when you play around with menus, man, can it really make a difference in profitability of what you're selling and also just really the guest experience and seeing the amazing food that our customers or people have within their restaurants.
Yeah, and over the years, I've certainly had the benefit of a little bit of reading and research, some hands-on practical work. But a number of years ago, we invited Greg Rapp to come and speak at our food show, and then we held a workshop for a select number of customers that were interested in the process. And Greg Rapp is one of the world-renowned menu experts, and he certainly has a really interesting way about him, which is excellent. But some of the knowledge that I certainly picked up on, a fun process and getting your hands in and doing the work. And I think, his process back, 10 years ago was one way. I'm going to show you today in a visual example of how we can look at it visually to start to connect all those pieces.
Yeah, that's great. And I think the other thing too is we can you just kind of share with everyone that's going to be watching today and watch this video just a little bit about the resources we have when it comes to helping you with your menu?
Yeah, we have a full design team located in the United States that is solely dedicated to helping our customers with their menu challenges. And that could be as simple as a takeout menu, a pop-up shop, all the way to a full menu design that our customers need help with. And the best thing about it is that the service is free. It doesn't cost you anything. You can go out and hire a designer at $100 an hour, and I'm sure you're going to have a terrific product. You can have as equally great as a product without spending any money. So there's
Mm.
certainly, with what's happening in Canada, across Canada, with the number of closures for in dining and a little bit of uncertainty, now's time. Now's a little bit of this downtime that you probably didn't have before. And as we start to ramp up, that downtime is going to be valuable for you to go in and have a look at your menu, look at all your pricing, do the analysis, look at the data, and take some old things out, put some new things in, and your customers are going to see a great product. And then maybe you've updated your pricing to be in line to make your menu a little bit more profitable and make your restaurant a little bit more money.
Doesn't hurt, right?
Can't hurt.
Can't hurt nowadays. But it is good that people consider this as they open up, or even if they are not, a digital going to a digital menu. I believe a lot of the things you're going to talk about today applies to digital menus.
I think it's certainly all the principles apply. What you're going to do is you just want to learn about these principles, take them and apply them where you can. Doesn't mean you have to apply every single one. Maybe it's just one that you take and apply to your menu today to make it a little bit better. And this is literally, Jay, I think it's a bit of Pandora's box that we're opening up today, because there's not one method that says, here's how a number one selling menu can be. And we know this because if it was that way, every single menu would look exactly the same. And they don't. They all have a little bit of personality. They all employ some strategy. They're all unique to your business and what's right for your business. Um, so, and again, this is where we take all of these key principles that we're going to talk about and take them, learn about them, and start to apply them. And I just caught myself saying, a friend of mine reached out and said, "Hey, you're going to have a great show. Make sure you watch your ums." So sorry, it's a force of habit.
No way to go. I'll watch your up.
But I'm aware of it, and I'm trying to get better, Jay.
All right, let's get into it.
All right. So, what goes into a menu, and then besides the food and beverage, of course? And let's talk about a few of these key areas. First up is going to be, how is your menu presented? And is it just going to be on a sheet of paper? Is it going to be laminated? Is it going to be in a holder, a menu cover? They come in all kinds of shapes and sizes, depending on what's right for your business. And of course, now we have the whole digital aspect. I've broken that out into 3 subcategories. There's the e-commerce piece. There is a PDF link that could be on your website, or your menu even embedded into pages on your website. I think no matter what, there's still an opportunity to employ some of the strategy that we're going to talk about. And it doesn't really matter how your menu is presented. Taking the data, and I'll talk about the data, and applying it.
So,
Yeah,
Michael, just want to jump in there, just for everyone that's going to be watching this live right now. Ask us questions. If there's questions or anything, we'll hopefully get to them. But throw us a question if you have any questions for Michael regarding menus and design and all this good stuff we're going to tackle today. So,
love. We'll try and answer those questions to the best of my ability. And certainly Jay's got a lot of experience. We had a great conversation in our prep meeting. Jay's done a lot of work with menus as well in his years with Sysco. So I believe, Jay, you even have a collection of menus. What's your oldest menu?
1850, I think it is. And I
Wow.
also have I forget the name of it, but it's the ship after Titanic. I have
Okay.
that menu.
Wow.
And yeah, I've got some pretty cool menus. I've got the Fairmont Hot Springs from 1930s. Because design guy too and marketing guy. I was collecting menus for a long time, and it's amazing on how they haven't changed in a lot of aspects of where menus were in the past and where they are today. Just when it comes to um, the layout, even the wording, pricing. Surprisingly, the pricing has changed, obviously, but not as much as people may think. So there's a lot of interesting things. You can see the menu changes when freezer food came in, like frozen French fries, or
Yeah.
when we started putting freezers into kitchens and changing from fresh to pre-made, or you can actually see it in the descriptions on how people use that because it was a benefit um, of not having hand cut French fries, but having French fries that were frozen, and just the way they describe that, some of the branding of companies, it's pretty cool when you look at the past of what menus look like and how people are using them today. And I love this talk. I've done a few menus in my life. Um, yeah, I'll just leave it there.
All
I've done
right.
it. I won't say I'm an expert, but I think after what 10,000 hours, you're an expert. I think something like that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd
there's
have to say I'm easily over that.
certainly something to be said.
All right,
All right, up next, we're going to talk a little bit about pricing. I think this is another subject all on its own. The debate: should your prices end in 0.99? Do you have your prices rounded to the dollar? Do you include a dollar sign? Do you not include a dollar sign? What's all the minutia behind that? Up next would be a little bit about color psychology. Again, another subject all within its own. Reds can stimulate and excite. Blues can suppress appetite, but blues can also make you feel happy, like you're near the ocean. Oranges can be bold and fun. Yellow is associated with happiness.
McDonald's.
Green, McDonald's, red and green. Plus a number of other restaurants that their logo incorporates red and green, and they incorporate them for those specific reasons.
You know what you think about like green? Did you say green yet?
I was just about to say green is my next one.
Sorry.
Green,
I'm excited,
green
Mike.
being
You got me all excited
healthy
about
and
this.
fresh.
Yeah. So what's a company called? Freshie? What color is their
Freshy.
logo?
Yep,
Green.
green.
And it
And
really like the psychology of color and design, I tell you, it really does make. And it's because I think we're color is like the language before we even start speaking language that we refer to, right?
yep,
And I think that's so important when you think about that, and the importance of storytelling in your menu to the past when you were a kid, and the confidence that you had in that person telling you those stories, and the trust is very similar to what you have when you build a menu and start building the trust with your consumers. The same kind of psychology there
yeah,
as well.
absolutely. And then blacks are sophisticated. And then we have complementing colors. So we're going to go back to the old color wheel. And, directly across from what complements red, directly across the color wheel is green. Red and greens together make each other pop. So there's a lot to do even within this color psychology. But your color psychology also needs to be balanced and balanced with your interior and your atmosphere. And when they conflict, it can cause big problems for your patrons.
Yeah,
Uh,
you
yeah,
is there a color or anything that you would avoid, Michael?
there's going to be a little nuance between all colors. When I used to do the consult with the customers or go and see, the first thing I would do is have a look at the room. What's the feeling in the room? What's the mood? What's the vibe? Um, and then there's another key piece to it too that I'll talk about in a minute. But once I knew what that was, and then the conversation with the customer, because at the end of the day, they're ultimately the ones that decide. And, if you say, hey, blue's not going to be the color for you, and they look at you and say, I want it to be blue. And you say, okay, no problem. So there is a subjective piece around it. But colors can be an interesting thing, and it is subjective. There is a lot of suggestion around how they operate and what they do, and there's a lot of studies that have been done. Certainly, there's courses in university for art degrees solely based on color psychology. Um, but if from a general aspect, we can look down, some of these attributes and make some decisions about what colors we want to employ. So it's not just, hey, let's do red because red stimulates and excites, and I want people to be excited. There's a few more pieces or building blocks that go into it. Up next, we have pictures. So, do we include pictures? Pictures of food? Is it actual pictures of our food? Are they stock images? Or even are they accenting pictures? And that could be your restaurant has a particular theme, or there's some history, and you want to include some historical images within your menu. How do we take all of those food items and imagery and balance them out so that we have a product that is doing what it's supposed to, is selling the food that you're offering,
Yeah.
not necessarily talking about the history of or the historical significance attached to what that restaurant is all about.
So I want to talk a little bit about this one because this is a great subject because we have seen a transition over the last 20, 30 years of less pictures on menus. And we have seen just recently kind of a surge back into bringing that back because of digital menus and being able to see even a video attached to a menu item nowadays of a very cool, moving video or moving ad about that dish. The one thing also that I just want to note for people that think about menus, if you have a QSR or a restaurant that you want to really pump out people and it's more for grab and go kind of format, they do recommend photos in a sense. And I remember reading this study about it in a sense around the idea that it's fast to make a decision opposed to piecemealing, or if you're running combos to bring the picture together as a combo. And back to McDonald's, hate to use them again, but they kind of figured this out that, for combos, it's easier just to point at the picture, right? To make a decision without even going, okay, I need this, I need that, I need this. And then they brought the combo together was the first step. And then they said, well, let's make a picture of it. And I forget how many seconds it does reduce people's decision making in that. Now, it might be a little bit different dining and stuff like that, but in digital, same kind of thing is when you are putting your pictures into your either a third party company or your digital app on your delivery, I really recommend considering pictures again, Michael.
Yep, and I'm going to connect this back in a further point, but yeah, you hit the nail on the head. QSR, those menu boards are brilliant. I think they were a little cheesy when they first came out, but the panels have gotten brighter. The bezels on them are gone, so you have seamless menu boards, and there's an opportunity to showcase pictures of food. There's also something to be said about, the QSR and the level of consistency that they have and what the patron expects when they walk into the door.
Mhm.
This dovetails a little bit further into your digital menu, especially your e-commerce or your third-party delivery apps, where pictures can be crucial, and it could be crucial for that quick buying decision, or again, the psychology. So let's guide people to what we want them to buy on the menu, especially third party, because you want to limit the number of products that you have. You want the best traveling ones, the best looking ones that are going to arrive to the end user as they would at the table within the restaurant. So there certainly is a lot to talk about when it comes to food pictures, especially and predominantly in tourist-driven areas where you have tourists from other countries who don't speak the language, or where you're going and you're touring other countries where you don't speak the language. Sometimes it's easier to point at something that you recognize and that you're familiar with, um, to break down the language barrier.
Now,
Hopefully,
the other thing I want to talk just briefly on this
yeah,
because I think you nailed it in some of the comments here is what about the quality?
yeah, quality. And 10 years ago when I consulted on this, was people eat with their eyes. And if you're going to put the picture of your most famous selection, you got to be confident that that item is going to come out looking like the picture almost every single time. Otherwise, the end user or the consumer is going to be disappointed in what they've ordered, because they ordered what they saw in the picture and what
Mhm.
they what came to them was completely different. So you have to make sure that you're very consistent in what you're offering, especially when it comes to using food images.
Especially in
Instagram.
third party. And so I want to just call out there to Michael, especially in third party, because if it doesn't come what they saw, there's a million other choices they have on their using their thumb.
Totally. And your menu only has so much available real estate.
Yeah.
And, but also too, this is what Instagram is for and why you have an Instagram account. This is where you can use imagery associated with your food to help drive people to come through the door. And hopefully their experience once they've been through the door or ordered, they're going to order again because a single patron is great. Repeat patrons are money in the bank. All right, up next we have interior and atmosphere, and I touched on that a little bit. What's the mood? What's the vibe? Is it bright and airy? Do you have great big windows, lots of sunshine flowing through? Or is it dark and moody? Do you have, leather chairs, white tablecloths, and you want to have an ambiance to your restaurant? That's going to play a role too. And this last piece that is the most important is knowing your audience. So, who are your patrons? And the best way I can sum this up, Jay, is that you have a dark and moody restaurant, but you want to use that color red. Probably not going to work. It's going to become very difficult in a low light situation to read the menu with dark colors on it. Bright reds, of course, are going to be one thing. You're going to want them to complement. They're probably going to be a more muted tone of red, but it can become very difficult to start to read through the menu. And this is where you want to employ that tactic. The other piece is you want to pay attention to the visual cues. Maybe you have all of the ideas and everything right, but you put that menu into your customers' hands. If you're not paying attention to what they're doing with it, you could be missing out on something key. And when I say visual cues, do they have their cell phone with the light on to be able to read the text? Do you notice people pulling out or even asking for reading glasses? There's a tip that says, keep a bunch of pairs of readers at the hostess stand for any patron that might have forgot their glasses or needs them to see the menu. They can't see the menu. Yes, their eyesight is one thing. But if you start to see a recurring theme around this, maybe there's an opportunity or something that you've missed along the way. Or the classic, they're holding the menu right up to their face. They could be having some challenges reading it. And that could be visual, it could be light, could be colors used on the menu. There's a lot of different factors. But I think my point here is that you want to pay attention, or have your serving staff and your management team pay attention to those visual cues and then investigate them.
Cool.
Let's jump into a little bit about some of the psychology. And first
So
thing,
Michael,
yeah,
before you jump in there, we actually asked, do you have any tracks that work specifically for golf courses? And I've actually done quite a few golf course menus
yeah,
because every year it's the time right now. And then, between now and even February, I remember doing menus through this time period.
yep,
I think there's a lot of things to look at golf courses in a sense, the location that that menu sits, right? Like, is it, and it's very interesting you say this because I have some new stuff that I've learned on golf course menus, more into the product offerings.
yep,
But I think when you think golf courses, after time seems to be, and it could be different nowadays with COVID playing a big crucial role. Um, I think golf courses menus will have to be built on speed. If it is something, I don't see a lot of golf courses maybe today, like the old days when you used to sit there and they'd sit for another hour after the game to enjoy a beer and a great meal. Maybe when we get back into that will come. But if it is for halfway houses, you're going to want speed on that. So that's where that imagery comes very handy into making those decisions. But I think the big thing on golf courses that I've noticed over the years is less is more.
Yeah, less is more. And I think there's a couple of questions, and here's where the consult is so important. You know, what type of golf course business do you have? Are they golfers just coming through, playing around, grabbing a beer and a burger at the end of the game, and they're on their way out? Or
Mhm.
do you have a finer dining restaurant attached to the golf course to attract that type of patron as well? So you could be employing two different menu strategies
Mhm.
within it. So again, know your audience, and then build it catering to. And simply for golf courses, I would look at the color of what people are seeing all day long and incorporate those. Greens, whites are great colors to employ. And then we also, you have the flags, the reds, the yellows, potentially even the blues, depending on how it works. But I would employ some of those tactics into wrapping out my menu to make it sell like I want it to.
Yeah.
Yeah, always a couple of really good questions. But
Cool.
when it comes down to it, Jay, I think I flashed up on the screen reliable data. Okay, whatever it is tactic that you want to approach with, you need to start with some reliable data, and this is key. Every menu item needs to be costed. You need to know which menu items are profitable and which ones have higher food cost uh, to be able to employ that strategy wrapped around it. Up next, we have some sales data. And, we say about minimum 3 months would be a good feel for what sells or what your most popular items are,
Mhm.
and what your least popular items are. And then certainly you take that popularity combined with profit contribution to start making the determinations on how you're going to, apply the psychology or engineer your menu um, around it. So, for the purposes of today's exercise, I have a little graphic
Okay.
that I'm going to show. And I'm going to reference specifically the William Dorfler gaze pattern. And these were gaze patterns that William did a study on back in the 1970s that suggest that based on the menu type, there are specific gaze patterns. There's also a more recent study conducted by Sybil Yang that suggests that the sweet spot doesn't exist or that people read the menu like a book from top to bottom, left to right. What I want to drive home here is that there are tons of resources out there, all of them having good claims. Google, the oracle of Google, type in menu engineering, you're going to have hundreds of results and things to look for. What you need to do or what you want to do is to be able to take the the strategy or the knowledge, apply it, and then measure it afterwards. So you've done all this work. Did sales go up over the previous 3 months on the items that you are trying to get people to buy or move visually? This is also combined with the strategy of your frontline sales team, your servers, understanding, knowing the menu front to back
Mhm.
and what the key items are. Hopefully they've tasted everything. They have some opinions, or they're in it for sales. So they want to raise their average check. How are they going to do that? Well, there's a specific way, and what we're doing is the why. Why are we doing this? And what we're trying to do is interrupt the default purchase. So with today, websites, mobile phones, all of the data, all of these things are right in front of our fingertips. They're shopping your restaurant before they've even made a decision to walk in the door or pick up the phone or order something online. What we want to do now is take this sales tool, once we've got them in the door, perhaps they're just looking at a lesser expensive item. Here's where you employ the tactic of your menu combined with your server, and you want to interrupt the default purchase. Move them into something that they weren't expecting, either because it was described on the menu in better detail or it was described by the server, and you've now raised them from, a $10 sandwich to a $15 combo platter. I can list a number of different examples around that. So I think part of that key strategy is to interrupt the default purchase.
Very
All
cool.
right, for our visual example, we're going to reference probably the three main types of menus, and that's going to be a single panel, a two panel, and a three panel. Each of them have a lot of real estate. They're probably the mainstream. There's a lot of different ones out there. Again, it depends on what your business needs. So for each of those menus, William says that there is a specific gaze pattern, or your eyes look through the menu in all of these directions. So even if Sybil says, we're going to read it like a book top to bottom, there's certainly still opportunity to employ whatever strategy is on those items. So here's my visual example. And I'm going to use a three panel menu. So we have a nice looking menu, clearly laid out. If we were zoomed in a little bit further, it would be a lot easier to read. But here on the screen, this is what we have to work with. But overall, it's a really nice looking menu. It's well laid out. I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. What we want to do is take this gaze pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm visually overlaying the gaze pattern on the menu, so I know where these generalized sweet spots are, or where these gaze patterns, where our eyes land on the menu are. So what I do is, now I've taken my sales data and I have some good data. I know what my most popular and or profitable items are, or where I want to guide people initially is. So I start to break it up a little bit. So I take those items and I put a simple little red box around it to box it out. I've taken the text and I've justified it center from left, so it stands out a little bit. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I just chose for this example to go subtly. So I've taken all of those profitable items and resorted them on the page. Now let's take our gaze pattern and re-overlay and see the work that we did. And I think what we successfully did was, we've got a couple of key profitable items. They fall within those gaze patterns. My menu's ready, and here, let's test it. Let's measure sales on, especially those called out items over the next 3 months, and see if we had an increase in sales. And that will be the determining factor. If you sold the same number, great. If they went down, maybe we need to re-engineer the menu. Like I said, there's no 100% absolute. Otherwise, we'd have the same menu at every single restaurant across the world, and that's not the case.
And there is a lot of that eye movement, nowadays. I think the eye movement, in a sense, because there's been a lot of studies on the challenge of that too.
Yeah,
And it's, it doesn't really, they don't flow this way. That was back in the 70s. There is some truth to it, I believe. One may challenge it today's world, where it's such a fast-paced decision on menus now, especially with the cell phone stuck to your hand.
yeah,
But that's really, it changes with the different style of restaurants out there, right? If you're going to a casual restaurant, I was gonna say fine dining, but I don't know if those exist that much anymore. So, with more of that casual dining experience, um, you're probably gonna read the menu, but I don't know how many people do that nowadays. Like, I just don't know how much people sit and read menus like we'd want them to. I love that.
yeah.
I don't know when's the last time I read something that was on print, right? I don't know.
And the categories, people, will scan a menu based on what category they're hungry for. I personally probably don't think the last time I actually went into a restaurant and ordered a soup. If it came with something else as part of a combo, great. But I'm not going to look at the soup category. I'm going to go to what I'm particularly hungry for. In this example, I want to come in for a burger. So what am I going to do? Well, maybe I might go over to number 5, and instead of just having the regular house burger, I'm going to have this Jack Daniel's barbecue burger because, it appeals to me and I wasn't expecting to see it. And, now I've gone, maybe it's $1 increase in the menu price, or maybe it's $2, but that's $2 that you didn't have before because I already decided what I was going to eat before I even walked in the door.
So, Michael, can you bring that up? I would just want to play with that menu a little bit if we could here for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Just some of the things. Do you recommend maybe the titles of what we see here, the starters, traditional pub fare? Is those colors? Would you recommend those colors? They're a little hard on the eyes, but is that
It
something to
again,
do?
subjective, Jay. I think it depends on what the end user wants, and you combine some of those other tactics and or techniques. Remember, we're looking at it on a screen with not the best image quality. When you have it there in front of your face, the colors can look a little bit different. So it's subjective.
But
At the end
very
of the day,
normal, like a very traditional style menu, right? Start, soup,
yeah,
salad.
it's
You
your
got your fare in the middle. Yeah.
it's your basic traditional pub style of menu. And, for that person, it works great. Very popular place, lots of great sales, and lots of selection. And his clientele, demands that selection, and that's what they come there for.
Mm.
For other restaurants, it could be completely different. Again, I had some fun and I went back and looked at some of the projects that I collaborated on. And there were some really interesting, no two menus really looked alike. So you can imagine how challenging it is to create a unique piece 200 times over. There might be some similarities that cross over, but and again, there was a little bit of everything that included all of those points that I talked about. There were menus that I designed that had pictures, historical or food. There were probably even some that clashed with the interior atmosphere. Through the decision making process. There certainly is some really good color palettes and examples to use. And I know that our menu design team employ a lot of these same tactics when they create menus. And there's a lot of great template driven things and products that we also have available that can help you in your business and help you in your business right now. You need to transition to something in between, um, you know, could be a week or two away from potentially having in dining reopened. You might want to move to a smaller temporary menu so that you can control things like inventory, cash flow, labor. All of these factors compound, and maybe your fully engineered menu just needs to sit on the shelf for a couple of weeks as you gradually reopen. The design team can help you with it, or we can even get you set up for a self-service option. I have a whole menu tutorial that I did and recorded on how to get started with that self-service option. And you can choose from literally hundreds of templates. You can import logos, you can import pictures, you can have something that you can design in probably as little as an hour, granted that you have all of your text and everything ready to go as a project. So we have those resources available for you. Or maybe you're going to take a little bit of time right now and do that revamp on the menu. We also have that resource available the design team can create a whole menu for you
Mhm.
from scratch, top to bottom.
Wow.
Eh, the resources and things that out there are certainly amazing. You know, or you have an in-house person that designs it that does a great job, use them too. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. What you do want to do is have some control over your own destiny, and number one, create a number one sales tool that will help make you money and drive profit, and get those sales, get that cash flow flowing through the door.
Awesome. Awesome, Michael. Great
That's all I
info.
got, Jay. We can spend
I was
hours
just like,
going
we
through.
just talk. I don't want to. I don't want to talk too much on this, but it is a subject that, like I said, I'm passionate about. Done a ton of menus over the years. It's just something. The biggest thing that I would recommend to people is, I think that some of them, from my experience in looking at menus, and I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of menus I've done over the years. Um, the big thing I would suggest: don't be afraid to change your menu. A lot of people are afraid to do that.
Yep.
And I would say it's actually a lot of fun if you get to change your menu. It's like a remodeling of your menu is actually kind of fun. And when I've seen people do this, the power and the excitement and how they're so proud of a new menu, and what a great time to redo menus, as maybe like you said, your earlier close and you're going to reopen, and we're going to have a kick butt fall this, hopefully. I'm going to count, knock on wood. We're going to have a great fall, and people are going to be able to dine out again and go and see those beautiful menus and order from you and have a great experience. This is a time to adjust those, come out with your new menu. And like you said earlier, Michael, is brag about it on social, take pictures of it, celebrate your new menu. I
Yep.
saw a few this week, people are opening up with their new menus down in the US market, and they're excited and they're proud. Share it. I always say if they steal it, it's even better. Um,
It's the
but
best form of flattery, right?
or flattery, someone steals your menu, and I have seen menus stolen. Um, but yeah, it's something that I would say it's not a big risk. It is some risk. Let us help you reduce the cost, because it's not cheap doing menu changes and adjustments and
Not
design
be,
and stuff.
yeah. A lot
Use
of
us.
time.
That saves you a lot of money, right? We're all watching every penny nowadays. So
And
use us on that area. Contact, your reps, email us, whatever it takes. Find out. We got ways to get a hold of us on that.
there's
Uh,
also another great resource in the on-demand section, and it's the cost change calculator.
yeah.
If I raised my menu items by $1, how much profit would that yield me?
Well,
Uh,
the thing too is on that too, Michael. I'm glad you brought that up, because I used to do a little bit, because I would also look at things I want to drive. So I'd reduce the price on certain things. I would increase price on certain things. Play
yep,
around with it, and when you get stuck into one menu or one menu design, it's hard to do that. But when you adjust your design and adjust your menu, you can tweak those pricing. A lot of people will not even notice. Right?
yep,
The other thing I just wanna share with other people, and I just learned this preparing for today, and just so I did my little homework. The one point that I thought was so interesting is the power of twos and couples. And when people come in at a couple, and I didn't even think of this, but they said when you come in as a couple, you're more likely to spend more, right? So when you're promoting people coming to your restaurant, look at, and this probably could even be COVID safe in a way, that you're bringing your spouse, or taking someone out for dinner as we open back up. Look at deals on couples. Now, the thing what they said on the psychology of the couple is that you're more interested in your who's attending with you and their experience, that you want them to have a great time. So you're more likely to buy higher price things. So when you run a couple, like a special or a feature with it, it's a two couple dish or a meal for
the date night.
date night
I've
thing.
called it before, date night.
Exactly.
Our date
There's
night
more,
special.
which is interesting, because you can actually price a little higher. You may add in a few different things to create that a great experience, but they're less likely to really gauge on the pricing on that. So if you talk about adding it a dollar, this might be, it's a date night, and you add a few dollars more, and it's a couple and they get an extra dish or something else.
Yeah,
I thought that was so interesting, and it's so true that when you're out, you're more worried about their experience than your own
yeah.
or what you're paying for products. So might be an opportunity for when you open back up and you can have those smaller settings or two people at a table and it's safer. Create a COVID a two-seater deal.
There we go. Well, Jay, for our next SVK, let's dive in a little bit more into some of the different areas and have some conversation around it. I think we have a few more episodes here under our belt under this specific
I think we can
topic.
talk about all this stuff. Yeah. Well, thanks again, Michael. For everyone else, we're back again this Thursday talking about labor. And I tell you, I was talking with him yesterday pre-show. Holy cow, there is so much to learn about labor right now, Michael. It is insane. And what is around the corner when people want to go back or when we open back up, how you hire those people back. Is there people to hire back? What does that all look like? We've got an expert. He's a restaurant trainer, one of the best in Canada. He also trains in the US as well, restaurants. And he's going to talk a little bit about labor and what we need to know about this. And from what I'm gauging, could be pretty busy when we open back up and stuff like
Yeah,
this. We want to be well prepared because the guest experience is going to be crazy important as we move forward. So,
definitely.
okay. All the best. Thanks so
Thanks
much.
again, Jay. Peace
See you
out.
later.
Play
We'll
that.
be-
Play those groovy tunes again.
that groovy too. I'm going to play it out. One that not as groovy, but we'll bring the groovy back next time. That'll be your new music song.
Well, thank you.
All right. See you later, everybody. Take care.